Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. Now, there's a lot of great things happening here on TeacherCast. We recently announced last night on the Tech Educator Podcast that the show is going through a little bit of a metamorphosis as we move into 2018. It is with great pleasure that I'm announcing that we're having a completely brand new name, completely brand new logo, and I'm excited to be sharing some of the great things that are happening to TeacherCast in 2018. Stick with us throughout our transformation. Of course, there's several great ways that you can find us here. You can reach out on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail. Email us at feedback@teachercast.net. And of course, subscribe to this and all of our shows over on teachercast.net/iTunes and teachercast.net/YouTube. Makes a great stocking stuffer this holiday season. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about things that you can do with your pre-K students. Many of you guys know my Edu triplets just celebrated their 4th birthday. I know, I can't believe it myself. And the only thing that my kids want to do is play with products from Lego Education. And we've been building and building and building over the last few weeks. And I was telling people last night on the show that the only thing that my kid wants for Christmas is Legos. And I'm so thrilled today to talk to 3 amazing educators from the Boston area that are not only experts in early child development, and they deal with kids that are my age all the time, but they're also going to talk about some of the great products coming out from Lego Education. I want to introduce here Alicia Carroll. Alicia, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been teaching in the Boston Public Schools for around 20 years, and I am directing STEM education, science, technology, engineering, math, and the arts, of course, at the East Boston Early Education Center.
Thank you so much for joining us. I also want to bring on Mirna Promosas. Mirna, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I work for the Boston Public Schools. I've been a teacher for about 25 years. Currently, I teach K0, K1, and K2 in the Montessori system.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining us today. And our last guest, Kate Leese. Kate, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. So I have been a teacher for just about 8 years now. I work for the Primrose School in Burlington, Massachusetts, and I oversee curriculum and instruction there.
Well, thank you guys so much. I got to tell you, I am excited to learn from you guys today. We are, of course, talking on the pre-show about some of the things that my little Rugrats are getting into. And let's just kind of open up the conversation here. When it comes to finding great STEM activities, can you bring STEM, we're just going to use the word STEM and STEAM interchangeably here, but can you bring STEM or STEAM activities into our youngest of learners?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, in the time that we are living, it is not only possible, it's important to be bringing it to the youngest learners because the world is changing. The world they're going to be growing up in and growing into is, completely different than what we have now. And STEM really lays the foundation for the skills that they'll need to navigate all of that.
How so?
So, when we think about the skills that they'll need as adults, of course, the reading, the writing is all important, but, they really need to be able to work collaboratively, to communicate, to solve problems, to be flexible, to persevere, to think critically, kind of all of those skills. And, what's great about STEM is it provides all of that for them. It provides that foundation that helps them problem solve. It, gives them the foundation to be able to, think outside of the box and get creative, be confident in taking risks. And that's what they're going to need.
Now, when we're looking at bringing in some of these activities, I've been noticing even with my own kids, some of the STEM activities they've been around forever, right? I mean, if you look at STEM, it's a making, it's a building, it's a constructing, it's all of those things. And I'm going, well, wait a minute, isn't that Mr. Potato Head? Isn't that building with sand and Play-Doh and all those other things? Mm-hmm. Is this stuff that parents can just pick up and do? Are there special things that parents need to know before bringing in a STEM activity? Or should parents even be bringing in STEM activities? Should we just be bringing in toys that happen to be STEM activities?
What's great, I would say, and I'm sure Alicia and Myrna might agree, is that, you know, your kids are pre-programmed to explore, to be curious. I am sure, you know, any parent can tell you that they spend their entire day hearing, well, why, what if, how, you know, and that's STEM.
Well, I think one of the things that I'm thinking about with what you previously asked, and I think in terms of what kids need today, and we're not asking kids to just memorize facts and lists of facts like when I was growing up, and that's what they were asking you to do in school. We're asking kids to be critical thinkers who can make sense of information, who can analyze, compare, contrast, make inferences, generate higher order thinking skills. And I think in order to do that, to help parents to be able to do that, it's provide opportunities for play, for kids to engage, to be able to hold conversations, also to be able to pause and wait for your child to go to the next steps on their own, and not to intervene immediately, but to see what they do and ask questions, but also be a facilitator of your child's learning, to stand back and hear what they have to say about their learning. What would you say, add to that?
No, definitely. It's very interesting to observe the kids work with the theme park and see how they put things together, how they cooperate with other kids, and they talk about it, and they share ideas, and they say, oh no, this is not, you know, I think this is better if we do this, maybe we can build this together. So it's wonderful to see how sometimes with this STEM park, they share ideas, they learn from each other, and they socialize.
And one of the things that I've noticed too with STEAM Park is that kids just naturally are following the engineering process. Like they'll tell you, I have my own idea about what I want to do. Then they'll start constructing and building. Then they'll reflect and say, well, this isn't working the way I want it to. I need to go back. I want to make some changes. And then they'll come back again and say, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to add. And it's just a real natural process for them to do that.
So you're mentioning a product called STEAM Park, recently released from Lego Education, and I had the opportunity to test drive this thing out, and as you said, it is absolutely wonderful. It gives these students a lot of I don't know, do we call them minifigs? But a little characters, and it gives them various, you know, building blocks, and they have a chance to build these little stations and you know, I'm watching my kids play with this stuff, and I don't want to say they don't know what they're doing, but it just comes, as you said, it just comes natural to them. But what I'm finding, and this is where I'm asking for help here as a parent, is I want to help, and I want to ask those kinds of questions. Why did you do that? How did you do that? Like all those different, you know, critical thinking questions. But as 4-year-olds, they don't yet have the cognitive skills to answer the questions. But they know what the question is, and so like my oldest just goes, well, just because. But I know he doesn't have the thought process yet to be able to explain why he's building this the way he's building it yet. How do we bring those questions to having an answer in you know, our 4 and 5-year-olds?
I think, you know, what's important to remember about 4 and 5-year-olds is that they think in a very concrete way. So starting by asking questions, you know, just about the basics of what they're seeing in front of them. You know, how are these gears working together to turn what you've built on top of it? You know, things like that are kind of concrete things that they can, you know, they're seeing the concept in front of them. They're watching it at work. And, you know, and sometimes you will have to give them the vocabulary to talk through that. But I think if you start in the concrete and then move it out as you see them engage further in their play with it, move it out to the more abstract concepts of the whys, that's kind of a good path to follow with it.
As far as bringing in, as you said, the critical thinking skills, we kind of just hit on that, but you have the communication skills, right? You have the collaboration skills. Something like the Steam Park set or other Lego education products certainly lends it, especially in my house, to having multiple students work together on one common project.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about, because I mean, I had asked Kate earlier, she's got, what do you have, 45 kids in the class, 60? What's your number? You've got a few, right?
We have 20, yeah.
20. How many students are in each of your classes or groups?
Well, yes, I actually have a MakerSpace, and in that MakerSpace, I could have between 17 to 20 kids in that MakerSpace working.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
How is that? I mean, how do you go about, especially in a makerspace? It's an open-ended area. How do you just start with how?
I think part of it is, setting up the environment that's conducive to learning and allowing kids to be independent and to make their own choices. And I think one of the things that helps a lot is that you begin to ask those questions, because kids will respond. They will, when you ask them, so what are you thinking here? So what's your idea? And they'll say, well, first my idea started off in my brain. And then I looked at some of the pieces and I decided I wanted to make a train like what's here, one student built. And then he said he started with the story, well, once upon a time, I built this train, and then he goes into it and he talks about how he got stuck and he couldn't figure out how to balance his train. So then he said, then I tested it out. I put 2 bricks here and I put 2 bricks on the other side, and I noticed that I was balancing it and that it worked. So it's opportunities where, sometimes when to engage and ask questions, and then you have a feel when you need to back away, when kids don't want to say anymore, and they'll say, that's all I want to say. That's it. But once they get used to you just kind of asking questions and it just being a natural process and it's no right or wrong answer, they feel more comfortable to talk to you.
And is it easier to get them to talk in a one-to-one, or is it easier to get them to talk in a group, you find?
What would you say, Myrna?
Well, it varies. Sometimes kids, they get motivated when there's a child that was able to share his ideas or her ideas, but it varies. You just have to know that particular child.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I love about the products here, I was able to, over the summertime, check out a set that they have called Build Me Emotions. I love this set, and I remember taking it home for the first time and just sharing. And basically, what the set is, for those of you who are, driving, it is a set that you are to work with your students on building little human figures. They give you some cards with what they could look like, but there's a series of yellow head faces, and each side of the head, I know I'm explaining this with my hand as if you guys can see this, but on one side of the head there's a happy face and then there's a sad face. All we did was we opened up the box, we pulled out the various heads, and I gave them to my kids, and they were 3.5 at the time, and I said, what is this? And one of them says, it's happy, it's silly, it's sad. And I'm going, where are you getting these adjectives? But they knew that. And so we built the figure, and I said to my daughter, is this person happy? And she goes, no, he's silly. I'm going, well, what's the difference? Well, of course they couldn't tell me what the difference was, but the fact that they could tell me there was a difference was pretty eye-opening for me, right? Because especially with parents, you don't see the learning sometimes. You get to see what has been learned.
Well, and it's so important too with the emotions, when they're 2, 3, and 4, and just learning to identify the emotions. That set is amazing for showing them that there is a difference. It's important for them to learn about the body language of emotions and those things as well. But, being able to see it in the concrete little Lego face really makes it easier for those kids who are still at the age where they're still figuring it all out. You know, what does mom's face mean that she's feeling right now? You know, it kind of helps them navigate that in a safe way.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we did at our school was we made sure that all the pre-K classrooms had the sets and the kindergarten sets. And we started off at the beginning of the year talking about feelings because, you know, right away you're coming to school, you're feeling nervous about school, you're scared, you're excited. And so we used Build Me Emotions as a launching for talking about your emotions and your feelings, and then getting kids, you know, using the lesson on facial expressions and talking about what is a facial expression. Can you make a silly face? Can you make a happy face? And so what was interesting was that some kids, because, you know, there are emotions on both sides of the head, they would say, well, I'm feeling both of those feelings at the same time. Right now, I'm feeling angry because I had to leave my house to come to school, but then I also feel excited to see my friends. So they talked about you could be feeling two different things at one time, which I thought was pretty brilliant for young kids to connect that.
I love getting the kids to, you know, as you said, try to express themselves, try to explain what their world looks like and feels like to them. Again, we're at the stage here where you know that they've got those emotions, but they're just not quite there yet, but it's coming.
Exactly.
How does it work when you have 30 kids? How does it work when you've got this large group? When you're looking at this, do you purchase one set of Lego education products? Do you recommend one set? Like, let's take the STEAM Park. You've got 20 kids.
Mm-hmm. We have 3 STEAM Park sets in my classroom for 20 children.
Okay.
And that is because I'm, not saying this because I deeply love Lego education. I am saying this because it is true. It is the most popular toy in the kindergarten classroom. Mm-hmm. So we had to have enough to go around to prevent the arguments and the fighting over it.
No. That's communication and collaboration. That's what.
Oh,
right.
Things too.
Well, okay. So then the question comes up, and I'll ask you too, because you're running a MakerSpace. How do you organize this stuff? Do you throw all 3 sets on the floor and say, we're going to build, and then one of you guys is responsible for separating all the pieces, or do you just dump it in a big tub at the end? Or tell me how I handle this.
Well, one of the things we've done before was we first started off with just putting the set out on like the whole area, the meeting area, and letting kids just explore. And then what we noticed was some kids were overwhelmed by so many pieces. So then it was really helping them to sort, and they started sorting by colors and putting them in bins. And then we had 2 project tables open, and one table where just the materials were, and then they could go to 2 different spaces and build in those spaces. So for some kids, it was perfect. So it's really looking at the students and what their needs are. Because for some kids, it was fine to just have them all out there, and they just started building. And then for some kids, they were overwhelmed. So, and then sometimes you could just make it a small center with a table with maybe 5 or 6 kids that can go there at a time, and kids come and go in and out. And then having spaces where they can save their structures so that they can come back and revisit them and then make changes and add more. And that's where you talk more about the engineering process with them.
And in your MakerSpace, how much of this is student with product versus student with product with aid or extra teacher or guided,
Well,
how does that work?
Well, what's interesting is that kids will tell you they have their own ideas. So, with the Lego sets, do you want to talk more about that?
No, we were just talking about this because many of these Lego education kits, they come with cards.
Yes.
So they look at the cards, and sometimes they just have this sense of accomplishment when they follow a card and they try to build exactly what they see. Mm-hmm. But with other kids, they just they have their own ideas and they want to make their own thing. So sometimes if the kid, like when you dump the Legos on the floor, they just try to follow
like a map. They'll call it a map.
Yeah, they follow a map and they try to build what they see.
Yeah.
But with other ones, they just like, oh, you know what? This reminds me of, and they bring the experience to the place. So they say, oh, this reminds me of a park. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make a park, a playground, mm-hmm. and they start building things.
I want to pick up on something that you guys said earlier. You said you like to, pare down the sets and separate things by colors. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I'm a dad today instead of a podcaster, but this is where if you look at the colors of the set, yes, you have your blues and your reds, but you have your light blue and your dark blue, and you have your light green and your dark green, and to get the kids to start to differentiate between different shades. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm sitting here floored going, where did you pick up on this stuff? But no, they're saying light green, dark blue, and I'm going, hey, I'm a great dad because of this, right?
Geniuses.
I take all the. By the way, I take all the credit for this. So. So if let's say that you're a parent and you're looking to bring something like this in, right?
Yeah.
Where do you go to find these great sets? Clearly, you can't go to a local toy store and pick up Lego Education. Do you have recommendations, or where can a parent go to bring this stuff into their homes?
Yeah, so we are in the great age of the internet, and so LegoEducation.com is, I think, probably the only place that you can get these because they are so specialized.
And what makes it specialized? You guys had mentioned cards or something.
Yeah.
It's not just the toy. There's always a curriculum, or there's always extra stuff to it. Why else is this important for you as the educator and parent? So,
any teacher knows that, any material kit that you get usually comes with, a stack of lesson plans, and your administrator tells you it's not going to be a big deal to implement it because it has all the lesson plans. It's all set out. It's going to be easy for you. And this is no exception to that. It comes with some really great lesson plans, and I can say that because we helped to write them. So yeah, it includes some great lesson plans that touch on just some basic STEM concepts, ramps, pulleys, gears, all of the concepts that we remember from when we were kids in school. But then there's also some really great picture cards with ideas of what the kids can do with the bricks. So a little different from your normal Lego set where you get a booklet of instructions that walk you through step by step, what it is you're supposed to be building. These are a little bit more open-ended with, like they mentioned, just some ideas of, how you can use the pieces, how you can, use them together. And it leads you kind of through a nice story about these kids who are, at a carnival and they're exploring different rides and there's a parade and, that sort of thing. So it definitely engages the creative side as well.
Go ahead.
I think in terms of helping parents to locate these materials, again, I would agree with her with actually going on the internet. But I also think for us as teachers, it's thinking of ways to introduce the products to the parents. And, I know in our school, Myrna, I know has a homeroom app that informs parents. I have an actual website. And so what we do is we've done a lot of documentation to show parents how kids are using and what they're saying, how they can see, the skills that are emerging in their children, and they want to be able to purchase this. I think it's us also as teachers, getting in touch with in our community, looking at bookstores and talking to booksellers to have these products, Lego products available in communities. I know one bookstore in Roxbury, the owner asked me, how can I get this theme park in the store so I can have it on display, so when parents come in, I can talk to them about it and introduce it. So that's one of the things I'm trying to work on now, is thinking about how parents can have access to these materials, because that's really important. That's key for families that don't.
Well, I certainly think that, being aware that these products exist is certainly key to this whole thing. If you're out there on Twitter, you can go to Lego_education. And if you just go to education.lego.com, it directs you right to the site. Very colorful, lots of information, great products out there. But the most important thing is everything that we're talking about today is focusing on my students. Sorry, on everybody's students. And I want to, and even as we were saying this before the show starts, as a tech coach, I get a chance to walk into all of our pre-K classes and see what the kids are doing. I come home and I work with my kids to make sure that they've got these skills. STEM is here. STEM is real. STEM. I mean, even just now, before putting my daughter to bed, we were playing with an iPad, and she's got the little drawing out. She loves drawing on the iPad. Great. Well, I take out my Lego, put it on the iPad, and now we're tracing squares and shapes and rectangles and stuff like that. Yep. And she loves it because she can pick any color that she wants. And so with my older one, we're doing something similar, but now we're actually building. We're drawing a rectangle and moving the block and drawing another rectangle. And we're actually kind of drawing through tracing. It's just nice and it's neat and it's easy to do. Yes. I want to just kind of give you guys an opportunity to do like closing thoughts here. You could talk about tips for using these tools, places, resources, anything that you want, but speak to both the educator and parent. And then when you're finished, let us know one more time where we can learn more about you guys. Alicia, let's start with you.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
I'm sorry. You know what happened? You totally froze, so we didn't get a chance to hear what you were saying. We're sorry.
Okay, let me take a quick pause. The question was, give me like your final thoughts on STEAM education with little ones, and then at the end, tell me where to find you guys.
My last words would be for parents and teachers, just ask a lot of open-ended questions, allow kids to play, provide the opportunities for them to play, and that's what I think I would say in closing remarks. And a lot of the work I've been documented on my website. It's youngsteaminventors.com, and you can see a lot of the work with Build Emotions and with STEAM Park there.
And I just want to add that, we live in this world where everything is so fast. We have to do this, we have to do that. And I think Lego education, it's a way of like pausing. The kids can be kids. They can build, they can use their creativity in a way that it feels like they're just playing.
Kate, last words.
So one of my favorite facts that I like to share with my teachers and my parents is something from a recent U.S. Department of Labor study that says that 65% of the children who we are teaching now are going to end up in jobs that have not even been invented yet.
Right.
So we are educating them, we are raising them for a world that we know nothing about, which is overwhelming for teachers and it's overwhelming for parents. So I think the most important thing to remember is that the best thing that you can teach your child is how to solve a problem, how to think creatively, how to be flexible, and how to communicate. And whether you do that with a great Lego set or with a book or whatever you might choose, I think as long as you keep those concepts in mind, you'll be all right.
I love this topic. Clearly, this is something that hits close to my house, and we want to know what you guys think out there. There's, of course, several great ways that you can reach out and be a part of the show. Find me on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voicemail over on teachercast.net/voicemail. If you're looking to get a hold of anybody on our panel, I would love to connect you guys. There's so much great information and, more important, research out there. And hey, they make great holiday gifts. Let's just be honest about that, right?
Oh, Lego for Christmas.
Lego for Christmas. Who isn't getting Lego for Christmas? Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Please come back anytime. And I definitely will be up in Boston at some point this spring. Maybe we can catch up together.
Sounds great.
And
Great.
I believe that's going to be the last TeacherCast show for 2017. Of course, I want to thank everybody out there listening, supporting TeacherCast over the last 6.5 years. Like we said at the top of the show, brand new TeacherCast coming out in 2018. New website, new logo, new podcasts, and a lot of great things going on there. So as I always like to say, we're just beginning. Stick with us, follow us, and please take a moment out there. TeacherCast.net/iTunes for all of our audio. TeacherCast.net/video for everything that we have on YouTube. Help us out. We really appreciate it, especially during the holiday season. On behalf of everybody here on the TeacherCast Educational Broadcasting Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.